Back outside this week.
Yeah, can't pass up on the nice weather this
Beautiful.
week.
We've had some really nice weather.
Really nice days lately.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
And we have a special guest with us again this week.
returning guest.
Yes, returning guest. You may recognize him from a few episodes ago. So, um, yeah, so I think what we want to do is talk a little bit more about what we talked about last time, which is this Charlie Kirk incident.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
I think last week we we touched a little bit on the temperature of the country and so on and so forth. And I think there's some more that we can add to that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and I think having someone else's perspective and someone who's kind of around the political field, I guess, a little bit to get some info from you.
Yeah, as a conservative, I really looked up to Charlie Kirk. I thought that what he was doing and what Turning Point was doing was really good work. Um, I didn't honestly even though I was very well aware of Turning Point and what they did, like what their mission was. I didn't realize actually how big of an organization they were
Yeah,
until this or last week.
I didn't either.
yeah. Like I had watched him. Like I wasn't like I didn't like follow him like religiously. Like I every week I watched. I kind of kept up on what he was doing, and and just with viral videos, stuff would always pop up, and you'd see him debating with someone, and I didn't realize until after as well how big it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the organization is just so much larger, and they were actually right before Charlie's passing. They had announced internally. They hadn't got to announce it publicly yet, but they were going to. So they had been setting up those chapters in colleges across the country, and Charlie wanted to expand to high school chapters, and he initially he had set the goal that he wanted Turning Point. I forgive me. I can't remember the name of what they were calling the high school chapter
Okay.
thing, but that he wanted to set up 32,000 high school chapters around the country,
Wow.
and then everybody in the Turning Point, like the higher ups, were like, "That's a really lofty goal." And they did a little bit of research, and they're like, "Charlie, there's not even 32,000 high schools in America." And he's like, "Oh, how many is it?" "Oh, it's like 23,000." He's like, "Okay, so then let's try to shoot for like 15,000." So he wanted to be in like half of
Yeah.
all of the high schools in the country, which so they're still going to do that, and they're still going to continue to grow their college chapters. And I've heard that there's been literally thousands of submissions for new chapters in colleges that didn't previously had a chapter. Um, so that's exciting. Like for Turning Point, that they're not going to let this keep them down. That they're
Yeah.
going to, if anything, they're going to fight even harder.
Yeah, and I think it helps give him a bigger voice, and like we talked about last week, that's like his target audience, like anywhere from like especially with not no, I'm not singling anyone out, but like young men like in high school, like 16, 17 to you know early 30s as like his audience, I think.
Yeah,
You
100%. I
know.
mean, there's no. He wasn't shy about leaning into that generation male population.
Yeah.
He has pointed out some issues, and I think we touched a little bit on some of those in the past. He was fully leaning into that. I think he recognized that what some of the signs that he saw in that group were disturbing and not really a positive thing for our society.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was definitely without question his target audience.
Yeah. So I think that's awesome that they're moving forward with that, and like this whole thing, as much of a tragedy as it is, it's not going to silence him or anyone that followed what he did. And
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So today, the Turning Point board announced that they voted for his wife Erica to take over as the CEO and took his chair spot on the board.
okay,
Um,
that's got to be so hard.
Yeah. Um,
But good for her for being willing to step into that role.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
that shows you she's a strong person.
And everything that's happened in a week.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
and I think to your point, to both of your points about his target audience being teenagers and young adults. I think that he was the best voice because, like, there's a lot of political commentators out there on the left and the right. But when it came to people who were going to where these young adults are, college campuses, right? There's literally probably hundreds of thousands of college kids around the country. And he's going to where they are, big colleges, small colleges, and everyone in between, and letting them come up there and ask their questions and get answers, maybe play a little bit of debate if they wanted to. But that's why he was very integral in the last election, where he was like consulting for Trump, like going to him and saying, if you want to reach the younger generation, these are the things you need to talk about. You need to talk about that young adults can't afford to buy a house, that college is way too expensive and degrees don't really mean anything. And you have to address all of the young adults who are afraid to have children because of the state of the world, or they don't want to have kids because they know that they can't afford to have kids.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons that I think that he was so influential, was because he was the only political commentator going out and meeting these kids where they were at.
Yeah.
And then not only just going to talk to them, but then also going back to people like President Trump and saying, this is the stuff you need to talk about. You can't just focus on the boomers and the millennials and Gen Xers anymore. Like, if the new generation, Gen Z, is voting, and you have to
you gotta give them a voice too.
Right.
You can't,
No, without a doubt, and I think the numbers, the poll numbers showed that he helped to rally, and not just. I mean, I'm not saying that he is solely responsible for that demographic showing up to vote. Okay, but I would say that he was certainly his influence was very important in that demographic showing up to vote.
Yeah.
Regardless, I think part of it too is that it's not just it's about voting in general, not just about voting for Trump or voting for whoever. He got people
it's the whole idea.
engaged to the point that they said, "I'm going to go vote." In a like we talked about last week, you're talking about a demographic that I think, generally speaking, the media does a piss poor job of portraying that demographic as, lazy and they don't care, they're not engaged, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And that proved out to not be the case because of the work that was being done out there. So I think that was huge in getting those people engaged. And I think they're going to carry that message, continue to carry that on, whether it's the message of conservatism or not, at least being engaged. You think back to the to the Vietnam War. During that period of time, people not in a similar demographic that were being drafted, they were like, bullshit, I'm not doing this, and that was like there was so much activism going on in that demographic at that period of time. And it's similar. It's like a similar type of a movement. I think it's important because, like we talked about, these people are going to grow up in 10, 15, 20 years from now. And a lot of them are going to be in influential positions some way, shape, or form, whether politically or in business or whatever, or in their communities and churches, whatever it might be.
Was he the same guy that got Trump to go on podcast too? Was that or was that someone else?
That was his son.
Oh,
Yeah,
his son recommended that.
But who's in that?
In that he's in
Yeah,
that demographic.
right, yeah,
he's in that
he
age
understands like, hey, this is
Right.
your audience. This is where you need to be.
group. Correct. Like
with
he
PR and
recognized this
everything.
alternate media source that was out there that was reaching people in that demographic and saying, you got to talk to. This is a way to talk to these people. It's
And
a
I
way
feel
to
like you
reach them.
get more of a raw reaction from him and from the person who's interviewing, and like you get more straightforward answers. You don't have like a PR team behind you like controlling everything that you're gonna say and like writing scripts and all that. And,
Right.
Yeah,
You know.
and it's not like debates that have like
Yeah.
pre-selected questions
Right.
and you got to do this or you got to say this. You can't. We're not talking about this. That kind of crap.
Yeah.
Or you're not on a clock.
Right.
Essentially.
Well, yeah, because everything that's on, I don't want to say like mainstream news, but like cable television is like every segment, whether it's Fox or CNN or MSNBC, whoever, it's like every segment is only a couple minutes long. People are starting to move towards the long form
Yep.
content, and so like you can actually instead of like you were saying, Jordan, about talking points and having a PR team. Anytime a political candidate shows up to any of those studios, that they're like, okay, we're going to ask you these 3 questions. So, immigration, guns, the economy. And we think that you need to lean into this side of those answers. And they have you have a curated, scripted response. Whereas when you go on a podcast, you can actually elaborate on that stuff. Like
Yeah.
that might still be your overall theme of an issue, but like you can actually go in depth more so than just you hit all the buzzwords that make
Right.
make the news people happy. Like you can actually discuss the issues a little bit further, and I think it was very influential that Trump went on those podcasts.
Yeah.
That was very cool.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that I want to ask you, Brant, that came up last week, but we really didn't delve into it a lot, is how do you think, in light of this event, and I know we have all the talking heads out there saying political violence is not an answer. Yeah, no shit. I get that. It's not an answer. So put that aside.
Yeah.
How do we move toward a society that can have public discourse without beating the crap out of each other?
Well, how do we move to a society where we don't beat the crap out of each other for speaking our minds?
Yes.
I think it's going to take some time to kind of, we have to like unravel, or not unravel, but we need to go back in time a little bit, because I assumed that you guys were going to ask me a question along those lines, and I thought the best way to answer it was, in order to talk about where we go next, we have to talk about where we came from. And so I
Yeah.
think we don't need to go back super far, because I think you guys discussed on last week's episode. Did you guys talk about 9/11?
We did.
Well, because
yeah.
you recorded on 9/11, I think you guys talked
Yes,
about
we did. Yeah.
how the country was very united at the time, and that unity has kind of fallen apart recently. So I think we don't need to go back that far. I think where things started to take a turn was when Obama was president,
Yeah.
and it hadn't reached the politicians yet, because if you go back and you look at Obama's debates with Romney and John McCain, they were very civil debates, both of them, in 2008 and 2012. But from a societal standpoint, we did see public opinion push towards the left pretty hard. Like that's when the Black Lives Matter stuff started. The first big instance of cities being looted and burned because of police brutality was in Ferguson, Missouri, if you remember.
Yeah.
Just outside of St. Louis. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, like this is a crazy response to police brutality. And also under Obama, the Obergefell decision happened, which legalized gay marriage. So we had a push to the left. Yeah, you can.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
Also, I think during that Ferguson incident, I think is when we first saw the media really lean into a particular narrative of tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
And I can talk, and we will talk. I want to talk more about that particular subject, tolerance. But I think that incident was when the media got behind this idea that we can spin this a particular way to get people to see it for what it really wasn't.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I agree with that. I think that it was in that Obama era, like So he was in office from 2009 to 2017. So that's when the media kind of shifted from just being the news to being
Everything was an opinion piece.
everything was an opinion piece, and they realized, because also that's when news went from just being on television to that's when smartphones blew up.
Yeah.
And
YouTube got really big.
YouTube got big, and it was like more people were consuming their news on the internet, and we found that. Oh, hey, a C-130. That's pretty cool. 2 of them.
Every night.
Every week.
Every night.
Every night.
Yeah. Not sure if you can hear that. You able to reach that later?
Um,
Can you reach that later?
Yeah, so I think that's when the news people realized that the thing that sold clicks and eyes on social media was outrage. It wasn't just stories. Like, you can have a catchy headline for a cool story or whatever, but it was, if this gets people a little fired up where they might be arguing in the comment section, like, that just drives views, which of course drives ad revenue. So I think it wasn't all just about money, but I do think that, like, we had a societal. Is everything always about money? Yeah. So I think we saw a hard societal push to the left, but just like a pendulum, we have to come back, right? So that pendulum had been going up and up and up to the left, and at some point it has to come back down. And I think basically, so like we often describe the American political spectrum, left and right, and it used to be like this, and now it's like this. So people who were in the middle, who they were maybe apolitical or they were 50-50 on issues, they have been pulled to the right side of the spectrum because the left has gone so far to the left. And so now the everyday person is fed up with the leftist agenda, and then the people who are leaning into the right-wing agenda that's becoming more popular. Is that, like, the everyday guy who might be 50-50 on the issues, or typically a center independent type person, they look at the left and they go, I can't get behind all of this stuff. I don't want socialism. I don't want all of the LGBT stuff in schools. They might not be against gay marriage, but they're against talking about it in a public school to children. And obviously, as we know with COVID, like, the vaccine was a hard push, and that divided people who may have agreed on other things. We're now divided on this other issue. So I think where we go in the future is the pendulum is coming back. I think that we're going to see over the next 10 years, the pendulum is going to shift to the right, especially because Gen Z is very galvanized right now, that especially Gen Z men, as we talked about on our episode, that Gen Z men and Gen Z women are very diametrically opposed right now, which we're definitely going to see problems with that. I think that some people are going to... I think that's going to hurt relationships.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Because young men are going to find it difficult to find a young woman who agrees with them politically. And also, something that Charlie Kirk definitely was a champion of, and we're seeing a revival of in the last couple of years, is Christianity.
And I want to go back to the comment you made about relationships and Gen Z men and women being on opposite ends of the spectrum. I mean, there are numbers out there, polls out there that are showing, Gen Z men want to get married and have a family, and Gen Z women don't.
Yeah.
Well, that's a problem. So,
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the poll that you're referring to, it was like they asked young adults, so like in their 20s, what things would you use to describe success? And so it was like 35% of Gen Z men said that having a family, like being married and having kids, was a defining marker of success. Whereas it was only like 16% of Gen Z women said that having a family was a marker of success.
Right.
And I brought that up. I wish Ryan was here to talk about that, but I brought that up to him when he and I spoke the other day, and his opinion on that was, for a man, generally, men don't define success by having a good job because they're expected to work,
Right.
whereas women are more inclined to be expected to have children.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he pointed this part out, and I absolutely agree with him that, like, I don't define my personal success by my job. For me, it's definitely my family. But I think that trend for young men is going to continue. That,
Yeah.
like, they're going to make having a family a priority over work.
Yes.
But what I will say is, in my generation, not that having a family was not a definition of success, but it was almost both of those things were expected and anticipated in my generation. That yes, you were going to go to college, you were going to get married, you were going to have kids, and you were going to have a good job, and you were going to have a house, and so I myself am guilty early on in my life of putting a lot of focus on my career, almost letting that define who I was versus let me be defined by the fact that I'm a good husband and I'm a good father.
Right.
That's shifting, which is a good thing in my opinion.
And that's good for a young generation too, heading in that direction.
Yeah, and those are the kinds of things that Charlie Kirk would talk about, like what we now call traditional family values, and you had a whole group of people over here attacking him for that, and saying that he was, he's a misogynist and he's this and he's, and it's like, no, that's not the case at all. And I think I want to touch back on my point about tolerance. I think, we as a society, and I think this, I would agree with you, Bran. I think a lot of this came during the Obama era. We were told to be tolerant, right? I mean, coming out of the 9/11 thing, right? There was all the racial profiling that went on, and all that stuff that happened. And if you looked like that, then you obviously were a bad person, right? And then somebody somewhere in the stratosphere recognized that and said, "That's problematic.
Yeah.
We can't do that." So we shifted and said, "No, you need to be tolerant. You need to be tolerant of other people's beliefs, religious, sexual, whatever." And they took, I feel like they took that and ran with it to the point where it's trampled traditional values.
Yeah.
It's basically, because you and I talked about this last week, Jordan, was like, we were told just be quiet,
Yeah.
right? Because you got to be tolerant. And I'm at the point where it's like, I don't have to be.
Yeah.
I don't need to be, like, I don't
have to tolerate everything.
I don't have to tolerate everything. If I don't, and people, some people watching this might go, well, that goes against like Christian values. It does not. I can still love you the way that Jesus said we're supposed to love our neighbor. I can still love you. I don't have to agree with your lifestyle or your thought process.
Yeah.
Or how you think about transgenderism or what you think about this or that topic.
Yeah.
I can still love you, but I don't have to agree with you.
Right.
And that's I think how part of how we've gotten here is like, you were told to be tolerant and everybody was just being quiet. Meanwhile, all of this kind of real far left stuff was bubbling up, and it just came over like a tidal wave, and everybody that and I would say that people, I would say the vast majority, the large swath of this country has very moderate views on most things and very traditional type of views on things. I think a lot of that far left stuff was media frenzy,
Yeah.
and pushed, and that's a small portion of the whole.
Right.
And it was like, just be quiet. And then all of a sudden, then you sit there and you go, wait a minute, like, now I can't even say that I think that it's okay to be Christian, or I think it's okay to be married, or I think it's okay to have kids. And I don't, want my children to be indoctrinated with transgenderism in school. Now you can't even. We've gotten to the point where you can't even say that because then you're getting attacked.
Yeah. You have to quietly put your family and children into the environment that you want them to be in without making it known or saying the reason why that they're in this private school or public school or whatever it is, or in this church or not in this church. Like, you almost can't be vocal about it. You can have your opinion, but you can't talk about it.
If you say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't have a strong stance on anything, and I think that
Unless it's on the left.
yeah, well, yeah, because if you came out with a strong stance on the right,
You're
then
an extremist.
then you're an
Yeah.
extremist. And like it's an anecdotal story, of course, but like on Friday night, I was talking to a friend of mine who he is definitely on the left, and we were just in a PlayStation party, and he and I get riled up and we argue with each other all the time about politics. And of course, this is 2 days after Charlie Kirk's assassination, so I was like, I'm not going to bring it up. I just want to play the games. I just want to chill out. I've doom scrolled on Twitter enough. I don't want to talk about this tonight. And then one of our other friends is like, oh, hey, Brant, did you see about blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, oh, dude, come on.
Yeah. Don't get me going.
No. And then that friend was like, yeah, I don't think he should have gotten killed, but it's not like he was a good guy. And then of course that gets me all fired up because I'm like, what do you mean he wasn't a good guy? And then of course all of the things that he was saying were taken out of context, that Charlie Kirk's a racist, he's misogynistic, whatever. And I was like, what about him is misogynistic? And he's like, oh, well, he believes in traditional like Christian values. And I was like, dude, that's not like
Yeah, what does that mean?
I was like, how can you say that it's misogynistic to be like a man and a woman should get married and they should have kids, and a husband should submit to the Lord and a wife should submit to her husband? And
That was like the American dream after the Great Depression.
right, everybody just wanted to have a
Since then.
family and prosper with their family.
Those are exactly the values that the baby boomer generation came from.
Put in place, basically.
Yeah.
Excuse me 1 second.
You can keep going.
And so he got me all fired up about that, because I was like, it's not misogynistic to say that if somebody wants to live a traditional like lifestyle, I mean, because even my wife and I have talked about this ad nauseum, that like we would really love for her to be a stay-at-home mom, and it's just the economy is a little too rough in order for us to afford that.
Right.
But even more so than that, like not only is it difficult for there to be stay-at-home moms, whether you support that or not, and if you are a woman and you want to work and have a career, more power to you, whatever. But now it's like in the 80s and 90s, it was like the counterculture was for women to work. And now it's counterculture for women to say, I want to be at home with my kids.
Yeah.
And and then there's women who are being shamed for being stay-at-home moms, and I don't think that's appropriate at all.
That gets to the I guess it's kind of like, I think we've kind of wandered a little off track from the original question, and I'm not saying that negatively. I'm just you saying people being shamed for wanting to be stay-at-home moms or whatever. Why are we shaming people at all? Like, I mean, again, like,
Why is it anyone's business?
Again, like I said, you can disagree with somebody, but you can still love on them and be respectful to them. Why? Like, we've got, like, we talked about this last episode, was like, why are we just like always like 0 to 60? Like somebody says, oh, I want to be a stay-at-home mom, and then 1,000 people got to like weigh in and say what's wrong with that, or like, I just don't get that.
Yeah, you go on the internet and you're like, my favorite breakfast food is pancakes, and everybody's like, oh, so you hate waffles?
Yeah.
You can't have
you ever had a waffle?
delicious Belgian waffle? What are you talking about? You're anti-waffle.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just said I prefer pancakes, dude. And it's like, So where do we go from here to be civil again? I mean, I think that the next few years are still going to be hard
Absolutely.
because we kind of, as a country, we kind of have to unlearn some of it. Because like even the three of us here who are like, we're not extreme people. We've never yelled at anybody for their beliefs, and for the most part, we believe live how you want to live. Don't, as long as it's not affecting or hurting other people, and go out and be a good person. And I can still love you despite your beliefs. And so how do we, but also we have picked up on some of the outrage culture because that's what we've been surrounded by for the last 15 years. And so even the three of us here can unlearn some of that behavior.
So how does that happen? Because I mean, I guess you know, it can happen one person at a time, obviously, but
Well, and like you said last week, I think the majority of people, like we said, are good and level-headed and have our head in the right direction. But the part of where we all need to come together and the part that needs to be fixed is so extreme, and in the main media most of the time, that's the part where it's like we need to stop fighting each other. We need to stop disagreeing about every little thing, and not even just as a country, but as a world, we all need to like come together and
as a species,
it's.
I just don't know how we do
But
it.
like you said, like our country it's been so divided for years, and like you said, since COVID, no one's been the same since then. It had this long-term effect on everyone individually,
Yeah.
and ideology and politics and religion. It's all like
Everything's
tainted.
a flashpoint.
Yeah, it is.
Everything is a flashpoint these days.
Yeah.
Everything. Pick a topic outside of like sports. Like we talked about last week. Sports is somehow we can do that and still survive.
Yeah.
But other than that, everything is a flashpoint. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, and like me and Alexis discussed yesterday, like we had this conversation last week how you can't even go online and have a conversation about anything anymore with anyone without someone rage baiting you or whatever it is. And we're both at the point where we don't even want to be on Facebook anymore.
Yeah.
And we took a break from all the other social medias, and we are about
TikTok's
to
pretty
be done
bad.
with that as well.
I know you're not on the TikToks, but TikTok. Well, it also doesn't help that the primary audience for TikTok is like teenagers.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of people arguing about things that they really aren't educated about.
Yeah.
And so they're just like screaming at each other into the void and have these awful takes. And so I get caught all the time arguing with these people, and I'm like, I'm probably arguing with some like 15-year-old
Yeah.
kid in Iowa, and I
Yep.
need to just knock it off. This kid does not give a crap about what I have to say, and he doesn't realize that I'm an adult and he's a kid, and
I think that's one of the
we both look goofy.
I think that's one of the key points is like I think we've gotten to the stage where the person on the other side of that really doesn't care what you think.
No.
They just are like you said, they're just trying to bait you
Yeah.
into this thing. They don't care.
They're trying to bring you down to their level.
yeah.
You know, and no one wants to be
Just
there.
trying to get a
and I'm
reaction.
guilty of it as well. But I had an encounter the other day where I was like, okay, this is exactly what I was talking about last week. I can't feed into this kind of discussion with people, like,
Yeah.
because all it's going to do is get me upset, and then I don't win anything from this.
Right.
Because I'm not going to change their mind anyway.
It's really hard for me from a personal standpoint because I've focused so much on politics, and like I have a really deep interest in knowledge of history. So like when I just see if I see somebody say something that is just factually wrong,
You want to correct.
I want to correct them because it's like I don't want you to go around looking like a dummy just saying the wrong things.
And you're not trying to make someone feel stupid.
Yeah, I really do try to make a point that like I can have a healthy debate with you and a discussion if you're willing to, but
Nobody is.
well, nobody wants that. And like you just said, that even if like we picked a topic where we disagree on, and I gave you a solid argument as to why you're wrong and I'm right, you're still going to go, well, that's your opinion.
Yeah.
And
And I can respect your opinion.
Yeah.
You know.
but like most people aren't out there, like people say that like, oh, I'm open-minded. They're I think when people say that they're open-minded, they really just mean I'm tolerant of like alternative lifestyles, that they're not actually like willing to hear the other side and take it into consideration. And that was back to Charlie Kirk just briefly, is people were slandering him on the internet saying that that he hated empathy, and again that was taken out of context because he never said that he didn't agree with empathy or believe in empathy. He just said sympathy is the correct word, because no matter what, like if somebody says, oh, my dad has cancer and I'm going through this really tough time, and you can sympathize with them and go like, I can't imagine what it would be like to be in your shoes. That would be really hard. That's sympathy. That's
Yes.
not empathy. Empathy is when you literally try to feel the way that they are feeling in that moment, and you really can't do that
No.
unless you're living
Unless you've
that
gone through a
same
similar
thing.
thing.
Right, because like unless you've gone through something very similar, you cannot empathize. You can sympathize because you can imagine in your head, if I was going through that, that would be difficult for me to go through, and you can sympathize, but you can't truly empathize. There are people who are better at that than others, but like people were just saying that Charlie Kirk was anti-empathy, and what he really meant was like stop trying to act like you know how people feel, and just because I think what he was trying to get at is when you use the word empathy and you're trying to empathize with somebody, you're trying to make it about yourself a little bit, and you're not actually making it about the person who came to you with their troubles. And like when a friend comes to you and says that they're going through a hard time, they don't want to hear you say, oh, if I was in that situation, I would feel this way. They just want you to be like, damn, bro, that sucks. Like, I'm sorry you're going through that,
just
and I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Like that's really what people want. They don't want you to tell them how you feel about something. And I think, I had been thinking about this for a while, about like doing an episode on people being self-centered, and I didn't know if we would have enough content to like make a whole episode about it. But I
we
really
definitely could.
I really just think that people are so self-centered right now, and you
Yes.
guys have alluded to this, working in this like the food service industry, and I've been there too, working in the food service industry. It's like, but I did that pre-COVID. I don't know what it's like post-COVID. So I think that people are just so freaking self-centered right now, and you need to just let go of your ego for a second and realize that everybody is human. We're all human, and not everything is about you.
Yeah. We're
There's-
all getting up every day doing the same thing, trying to survive and, have financial stability and have a home and a roof over our heads and families
Yeah.
but right now it's everyone else's world but just them, no one else around them matters.
And you're absolutely right. And I tend to believe that is a byproduct of this tolerance thing. Like you get, oh, well, I want somebody to be tolerant of me. I want somebody to pay attention to me. I don't need you want me to be tolerant of this group and that group and this topic and this thing. And it's like everybody wants their moment, right? And
Well, because it's like we've moved away from people wanting to be a part of a community, whereas like it used to be, if like way back in the day before we had modern amenities and modern commerce, it was like I'm the butcher for my small town, and I provide a service to the people in my community, and it's not necessarily about making money. I make enough money to support my family, but it's like I provide a service for my neighbors and for the people in my town, and I feel proud about the work that I do for my community. And nowadays, like you ask all these kids what they want to be when they grow up, and most of them say that they want to be like a YouTuber or an influencer, and that's all like self-centered. That's like, I want to be the center of attention for some,
Yes.
like I want 100,000 people to watch me talk about stuff every week, and it's never like I want to go
There's never
into
like
it.
a higher purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
people have lost their higher purpose, that like, why are we really here? What are you really supposed to do as an individual? And I do think that we are supposed to be a part of a community, and it should be what's that JFK quote where he says that, like, you know, don't ask what your country can do for you, but ask yourself what you can do for your country. And like, yeah, what service can I provide for my community to make everybody's life a little bit better, rather than like, what can everybody around me to do to make my life a little bit
Yeah.
better?
I have a thought on your comment about the butcher. You know,
I also have a comment about that.
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
So back in the the 40s and the 50s, there was you lived in a walkable community, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had walkable communities, but we did.
Yeah.
That's the way it was, right? Whether you lived in New York City or wherever,
Yeah.
and you had a butcher, and you had a grocer, and you had a newspaper guy, newspaper
Yeah.
stand,
Blacksmith.
Yeah.
If we're going back that far.
But you had a little local hardware. You had a little local hardware store, right? You had the lumber mill,
Yeah.
the sawmill at the on the outskirts of town. You had the guy that the clothing store, family-owned clothing store. Guy was his great grandfather was a tailor that came here from Ireland or whatever. That was community. That was how we lived. I'll tell you what broke that apart was massive grocery stores, Walmart,
Yeah.
Home Depot. That's what
Corporations.
broke those businesses apart.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why go to all those places when you can come here and you can get everything?
Yeah.
You don't have. It became about convenience, right?
Yeah.
A convenience store.
Mm-hmm.
Everything became about convenience, and that became so ingrained in us. Look at what has happened with DoorDash,
Yeah.
right? I don't even have to go to the damn place to pick
Yeah.
up my food. Somebody will bring it to me. This is great.
It was like how they founded McDonald's. Like it was like a tiny little burger shop in California or something.
Yeah, California.
And the founder
Yep.
made it what it is today, and it's a perfect example. And now it's just mass production fast food.
Yep.
That's in every country around the world.
And I think the interesting thing that I will say, and especially I will say this when it comes to the food business, if you in your little town, here in our town, you go to little sole proprietorships, that's where it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
We have a restaurant, you guys know it. We go there all the time. Favorite place of ours. We know the woman that owns it. Fantastic place, great food, great staff. That's what people are craving there. They're craving to have that back again
Yeah.
because that is community.
Mm-hmm.
You go and you sit at the bar and you sit there with 20 other people that you may not be friends, but you recognize them. You know their names. You say hello to them, right? Like people want that back.
Yeah. And what I was gonna say was your comment about the butcher and like having his purpose in the community. That is the perfect example of a man finding his purpose and being successful.
Yeah.
Like that is the perfect example of that situation. It's not solely living by like, oh, I'm the butcher and I base my success off of being the butcher, but the success of providing for his community.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, there's a sense in pride, or a sense of pride in being a member of your community and providing a service for your community. And they said, I can't remember the statistic, but like there were thousands of small businesses that closed during COVID. But of course, Walmart was open the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
and all your big box stores never closed down. And they're thriving now because they also, because of COVID, they killed a bunch of their competition.
Yeah.
Um,
A lot of big main food chains did the same thing.
yeah.
You know, stayed open during COVID, had like tight regulations, but
But you
they
can
never
still
shut
go
down.
in,
Yeah.
get something to eat.
Right, but
Whereas the place at the small restaurant that employs 12 people can't stay open.
Yeah.
right, yeah, but nobody's going to the local Chili's every Friday night to sit at the bar. Like they would rather like that atmosphere that you were just talking about with the locally owned small business where you have a sense of community. That's not a chain. It's not a big part of a big corporation. But unfortunately, to play off of that point, my generation doesn't really know what that was like.
Right.
So it's almost like we need a sense of direction. Like we need,
Mine barely knows what that was like. I was as like a 12, 13-year-old, there were still bits and pieces of that
Mm-hmm.
in where I lived when I was living in California. There were still bits and pieces of that. We talked about it one time about the little comic book baseball
Yeah,
card
yeah,
store,
yeah.
or the local record store, you know,
Right.
stuff like that, or the little like the donut store, the pizza shop. Like we still had some of those things, but it was dying fast.
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I think that we're going to see, because of Charlie Kirk's assassination, I do think that like I said, the pendulum is swinging back to the right a little bit. But I think, because I don't know if you guys have seen that, like there are people who are getting fired for
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
their comments
Comments.
regarding his death,
Yeah.
like celebrating his death or mocking his death. And so now people on the left who are celebrating his passing, it's like they're speaking out against cancel culture, but they're the ones who for the last 10 years have been perpetuating cancel culture, that if you are a Trump supporter or if you believe in conservative values, if you're not a tolerant person, you're going to lose your job or you're going to be ostracized from your community and your friends, because even if your friends agree with you, they don't want to be associated with you,
Right.
because the loud voices
Yeah.
are saying that you are a bad person.
I got a question for you, Brant, and this might be it. I think this is a difficult, tough question. So there are things that I'm seeing and reading out there, and Tucker Carlson is one that has spoken out about this. Some of the things that are coming out of this current administration, out of the Trump administration, make it seem like he is, or not him personally, but the administration is attacking free speech. How do you respond to that? Do you need an example of what I'm talking about, or do you know what I'm talking about?
I think I have an example, but if you want to give an example.
So the Jimmy Kimmel thing,
Okay,
right?
that's an
We all know Jimmy Kimmel's show got
Yeah.
indefinitely suspended yesterday
Right.
by the FCC. Or was it the FCC? No, it was the network. I
Network,
apologize.
yeah.
Network.
But
But there are people that are saying that the FCC is behind that because he made a comment that was deemed derogatory. I'm not going to weigh in on whether I think it was or wasn't. That's an example. There are other examples out there that, like, there's this thought that that's like he's trying to clamp down on free speech, only supporting people that have aligning views with his administration.
well, as you and I talked about in our last episode, that there are definitely the way that Trump operates is that he rewards the people who are close to him, and then he goes hard against the people who are against him. I don't know if it is appropriate for the FCC to clamp down on the network and say that we're going to do something about it if you don't. But I've had this belief for a long time, is that people really aren't against authority, because obviously people on the left say that Trump is an authoritarian, and then people on the right, like when Joe Biden was president, they'll say that Joe Biden was an authoritarian who was abusing the justice system to go after Trump, and then now Trump is using his authority to go after his political opponents, whatever. I don't think that people actually care about the government being authoritarian as long as they are being authoritarian on the things that they want.
Right.
Like for the left, who is against the Second Amendment, for example, if Joe Biden is going after gun rights, whether that would be against the Second Amendment or not, they like it because they don't support gun rights. But with Trump, when Trump does something authoritarian, they're like, oh, no, the president can't do that, or the government can't do that. That's unconstitutional. And then Republicans, when Joe Biden is president, they're like, no, Joe Biden can't do that. That's authoritarian. You can't, that's unconstitutional. It's like, I think that as long as the government is clamping down on the things that you don't like anyway, do you really care if they're allowed to do it or not?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a good point.
No, it's a good
point.
It's a good point, but
Because most people probably don't think like that.
But at the end of the day, and you and I had this conversation. We were out on the golf course a month or two ago. I'm a conservative, but I'm also a constitutional. I call myself a constitutional conservative. So my feeling is, when it comes to free speech, I know there's things you can't say. You can't say fire like we all learned that in civics class in high school. You can't say fire at a movie theater. I get it. Can't say bomb on an airplane.
Yeah.
I get it. I understand all that. But at the end of the day, if you're expressing your opinion, as long as it is, I think you can express your opinion in a respectful, articulate way without it being hateful, without being Kathy Griffin, is that her name? That comedian?
Yeah.
Holding up the Trump head thing.
Yeah.
Whenever that happened. And doing stuff like that, I mean, if you don't like Charlie Kirk, you don't like him.
Yeah, that's fine.
If you want to call him a misogynist, okay. Are you wrong? Yes. Because he wasn't a misogynist, but I'm just saying, is that something to get canceled over? Is that something to get fired over? I'm one that's like, I don't know. I think that's a little bit of an overstep. It's almost like an overcorrection, in my opinion, in some ways.
Well, yeah, to that point about being fired is I do realize that companies have become very sensitive to what you do outside of work.
Yeah.
They've really taken the stance that you are, even when you're not on the job, you are a representative of our company, and so I can't have my employees going out and making these unpopular opinions publicly. But for the most part, I say you should only get fired because you're incompetent or because you did something inappropriate at work. If you should not be let go from your job because of things that you said on your your off time at home.
As long as they're within
reason.
Within reason and within legal boundaries. You don't
Sure.
say, hey, we need to kill this person. That's
Right. Yeah.
different.
But it's free speech has a limit, like you were just saying. It is literally a crime to say to somebody, I'm going to kick your ass. That's a crime. You didn't.
My day it wasn't.
Okay, well,
Well,
it is.
That's the thing now,
It
though.
is.
Settled that shit. Back by the bike bench.
Yeah.
Meet you out there after
Yeah.
seventh period.
Well, yeah. Well,
You can't say you're going to kick somebody's ass.
that's menacing.
It's like a verbal threat,
It's
I guess.
there's
No.
something-
It's a crime.
And that's a whole another thing that's happened is we've got all these made up laws, right? Menacing. Who made that up? Menacing. Goofy stuff like that. Dude, that was
Yeah.
I'm just saying, that was growing up when I grew up, that was a thing. People said that stuff to each other all the time.
Yeah, even if you're at your job, they would just tell you to take it outside.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah. And I mean, and we all knew you don't get in a fight during school. So
Right.
if you want to square off, there's a place to square off when seventh period is over after school.
Yeah.
You can say to somebody, I'm going to kick your ass. Okay, cool. Meet you out there after seventh period. And that's how it went down.
Yeah, well,
Can't do that today?
you can't do that anymore. Yeah, I know that from my time at the courthouse filing criminal reports that like
I thought you had to literally threaten a person's life
no, you can just threaten
just to beat them.
to beat them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna beat your ass, and that's not appropriate. That's a crime. It's like a fine. It's not like you're going to go to
You're
jail.
not going to prison or anything.
But then there's
It's still a crime.
yeah, it's a misdemeanor. But yeah, it is a crime. Well, that's just what I was saying is that like free speech has limits, and I think everybody has to understand that. So like, I do understand that it can extend to. You should not say when somebody passes away, like you should not, because and this isn't even from a legal standpoint. Like, it's okay when somebody has a really bad opinion. It's okay to tell that person to shut up. Like that's like whether it like not like with no legal recourse, of course, but like if I just made a bold claim about about anything, I'm not even gonna come up with an example, but like if you just make a bold claim that is ridiculous or it's hateful or whatever, I don't think that people who make racist comments should get fired or whatever. But if somebody makes a racist comment, you should be like, dude, shut up, you're wrong, and it's inappropriate to say things like that, and that's
Yeah.
okay. You're allowed, like, if somebody has a bad opinion or they're speaking badly about somebody, you should be allowed and you should be encouraged to tell people, just shut up because you're wrong.
But we're not.
Well, because that's
we're not there. I think this goes back to the whole.
it's a product of the tolerance that it's like, well, you have to respect everybody's opinions. Well, some people just have bad opinions. Like,
but that's okay. You can like it's not a crime to be stupid
unfortunately.
or wrong. It's okay. Like I get people have bad opinions, bad takes on it, all kinds of stuff. Pick a topic.
And some people are just uneducated on things, regardless of the topic.
A lot of times that's a lot of times that's at the crux of some of this stuff is that people don't have the full context of statements that get made or anything, and that's a lot of the times what the issue is. But like to your point about hey, free speech has limits. I mean, yeah, I get that, but I'm not trying to like belabor this point, but when I was in high school civics class, like there were three examples of free speech going too far. Can't say fire in a movie theater, can't say bomb on an airplane, and you can't tell somebody you want to kill them.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, you have freedom of speech, but you don't have freedom from the consequences of what you have to say. That's
a different thing.
But like, you need to take responsibility. Like everybody, that's another thing. Like kind of going back to my point earlier about selfishness and people being self-centered, is like
Accountability.
take accountability for your actions, and like if somebody says, "Dude, you're being a jerk," or that opinion is wrong, and you hurt somebody's feelings, like you're allowed, you're allowed to tell somebody that they're wrong and like, hey, you hurt my feelings, like that thing was messed up, you shouldn't have said that, and that person should, instead of immediately getting, because everybody wants to get defensive and go like, oh, I'm not a bad person, or you're being sensitive, that's not the way that, like, that's not what I meant. Most people need to learn to just be accepting of the feedback and just go, okay, maybe I took it too far. Sure,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm sorry. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Because nobody is infallible. Everybody makes mistakes, and just take some accountability for your actions and stop just being so focused on yourself all the time.
And wanting to be right.
Yeah.
And also wanting to be right all the time. And,
Right.
I'm guilty of that. Like, I want to be right.
And this goes in with everything we're talking about, and I know you guys in some way have caught on to this, but in our current state right now, for the last at least the last 5-6 years, regardless if it's as far as politics or if it's all the way down to just talking about the next movie that's coming out, there's this trend of, and it's mostly people that know nothing about what's even being talked about, but there's this trend of just hating things and disliking things and talking shit about things that you know nothing about. And like and I see this all the time in like movie and game culture, where it's like, just because something's new and not completely original, you most of the people that are talking shit and hating on these things don't even know what they're talking about, but they're following suit and hating on it because it's popular. And I see that happening in everything, and including what happened last week.
Well, some people just like to be a hater. Like,
And that's what I mean. Like, there's so much of that now,
Yeah.
where it's like, it's gotten to the point where like people see one thing and they see it a few times and they're like, oh, there's this popular topic that everyone's like hating or disagreeing with, and I'm just gonna follow that.
yeah.
I don't know.
I'm that way about Taylor Swift.
Okay, that's fair. That's your opinion. That's fine.
So like, because I just like anytime, and okay, and honestly, this is lighthearted. Like, we're opening up,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
a little bit more lighthearted here, but I did not give a crap about Taylor Swift until she started dating Travis Kelce, and then I had to see her every freaking Sunday while I'm trying to watch football.
Yeah.
And it's just like, then all the
Now you're over it.
now, yeah, all the Swiftie fans come in and take over football, and now all of a sudden, everybody loves the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, it's all about dollars. That's
And then that person's like, well, I've always been a Chiefs fan.
NFL recognized an opportunity and they took advantage of it.
Yeah.
The NFL took advantage of an opportunity that they saw, and
Yeah.
they knew that
She's revenue for
that
them.
was going to bring a new group of people to watching football,
Yep.
right?
Well, yeah,
and
that-
it did.
Yeah, that's why, like, now, because, like, for the media market that we're in, if the Browns aren't on, if the Steelers aren't on, and the Bengals aren't on, you best believe the Chiefs are on. And it's like, oh, is she going to be at the game today?
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, I'm just a T Swift hater. I'm like, come on. Sure, is she a good musician? That's your opinion. That's fine. I don't like her music. That's my opinion.
I don't
That's
hate
fine.
T Swift. I just liked her up to a certain point, and I kind of just live in the past now. If I do listen to her.
Yeah, you guys talk about music on here all the time, and it makes me feel bad because, like, as you know from giving me music recommendations, I'm not going to listen to it. I like what I like, and it takes so long for me to listen to a new artist.
Yeah.
Which is funny.
But I give you music recommendations in the same zone that you listen to music in.
I know. It just takes me a minute to get acclimated, because now, like, not my two favorite of all time, but like two of my favorite artists, Tyler Childers and Zach Bryan. Ryan was like begging me to listen to them for the longest time, and I just like refused to. He's like, "You're gonna like them. You just got to try it." And now they're some of my favorite musicians. But like, I just suck. When it
That's
comes
kind
to
of how
music.
my music library has expanded over the last 5 years. Is like, I just started listening to what everyone was telling me to listen to, like anybody, doesn't matter, and like being in a band of 5 musicians who all have different tastes in music, that helped me expand on what I listen to as well. And now, like we talked about being open-minded, I am extremely open to almost all music now. Not that I was ever like pigeonholed into like just listening to metal, like that. I love metal and I play metal, but like that's not what I listen to most of the time anymore. So like, but yeah,
No, I get what you mean. Yeah, just specifically like when it comes to music, it takes me a minute to get into it. I don't know. Yeah, even though you and I listen to the same kind of music pretty much across the board, and you're like, "Hey, have you listened to this guy?" And I'm like, "No." and then you give me a recommend. Then you don't even say that I should listen to him, and I'm just like, I'm not going to.
I'm gonna give a plug here to an artist that I told you about. Like, I don't know, at least I don't know what the heck that thing
It was a mosquito.
well over a year ago, Pony Bradshaw. And I said, you got to listen to this guy. You should listen to him. And then all of a sudden, it's like 6 months ago, he goes, oh, yeah, I kind of like him. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I find like the best way for me to listen to new music is like if I'm doing a task and just listening to music
Just in the background.
because like I noticed that like the last couple weeks working on the house and doing the floor and stuff in the house is that I'll put on who I want to listen to, and then whenever that runs out and it
Yeah.
starts
That's what
serving
I do
me,
too.
Similar stuff, right?
Yeah.
Same genre, yeah.
and then a couple things come on and I'm like,
You're like, who?
okay, this isn't bad.
Yeah, like I found a few other artists just by listening
Yeah,
to
okay.
one
Me too.
artist.
No, I have too.
Their discography ends, and then the next thing goes on.
Yeah.
I have too.
I'm trying to get better, so I will try to do better with your music recommendations. It's just hard. It's just for me that's something like I listen to the same stuff over and over and over again till I get sick of it.
I have the same tendency to do that too. Like I'll listen to the same stuff, and then I'll be driving and I'll go, man, I need something new to listen to. I want to hear something different, a different voice or different sound.
Since we're on the topic of music, there's a current topic that just came across my radar right before I came here that I didn't know about. There's this artist, pop artist named David. You guys hear about this guy?
Yeah.
Like 20 years old.
His name is just David.
No, it's
So it's D4 VID.
ID.
Yeah, or something like
yeah,
that.
I'm aware of the. I'm not aware of. I was not aware of him until I heard the story, which I'm assuming you're going to get into the story.
Yeah, I don't know a ton, but
I know
from what
I
I
don't know
did
it either,
gather
but-
before I came here, this was like I didn't even look for this. It just popped up because it's a hot topic right now. This guy David, who's on tour, he's 20 years old. Pretty popular. I wasn't fully aware of him. I maybe heard one song. I think I know one song by him. But he's on tour right now, and they had just found, I don't know if it was his car or if it was a rental car. It was his Tesla. They found in a parking garage that people had been complaining about a smell going around for a while, and they found his chopped up girlfriend in the trunk of the Tesla.
I read that it was they found a body. I don't know about the chopped up part.
Okay, so yeah, it was just a body at first.
But I also saw something today that said that this was the body of a girl. I think it may have said teenage girl.
Somewhere between 13 and 15 years
Okay,
old.
that had been missing
Yes.
for a while in the area.
Since
I don't-
2021.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah.
I don't know anything about. I didn't
Yeah.
realize it was his girlfriend.
So
But this, yes,
It
the
wasn't.
body. It was.
it wasn't until
wasn't.
they realized that this is the same girl, I guess, who'd been on streams with him and stuff, like online, and like people recognized her, and like he was stating that they were just friends, but because she was a minor and he was 20, there's all that. I don't even want to get into that part of it, but like, yeah. So he's been on tour right now, and so they not only found a body in the Tesla, but they found body parts in bags in the Tesla.
Was it just one person's
One
body
person.
that they found?
Yeah, this
Okay.
girl that they found. They just canceled his tour, and now he's on the run right now.
Oh, he's on the run.
Yeah. Yeah, because I had asked, I was like, is he arrested? They're like, oh, no, he's on the run right now. I'm like, oh.
Crap.
I thought this was going to be a lighthearted story about some up and coming artist.
Oh, no. Well, I think this would be, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, this was like today, I guess, they found this out.
Oh wow! So this is
What's
brand
scary-
news, breaking news.
Well, it's been happening. Like I think they may have found the body or whatever in
Yeah.
the car like a week ago.
Yeah, I'm sure that's already been said
Yeah,
and done, but
I
the
think
news
these
is
are
coming
further
out about it.
developments, Right.
What's scary about that is they're saying that she's been missing 4 years, and I wonder how long because neighbors and people of this complex of that parking garage started complaining there was a really rotten smell.
So, but she had appeared on like a live stream
Yeah.
in the past.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And supposedly she was. I keep hearing 13 or 15, but because it's been so many years, I think she was like 13 at the time when she went missing. It's just horrible.
I would be curious, like how long ago was she on the streams? 'Cause there's no way that her body has been in there for years.
Yeah,
Right?
I don't.
No, I wouldn't.
I wouldn't
But,
think
like-
so. But she's been missing that long.
Yeah. So
Meaning that her
So-
parents, like, so she's been kidnapped this whole time.
Yeah, well, and I also something where people think online that she was being held captive because she didn't show her face on these streams either. So I don't know for sure. I'm gonna look more into this story for next
Bro,
time.
this
but-
dude. This is like Diddy. It's like the P Diddy stuff.
Yeah, and this is a kid.
We could talk about that, not tonight.
Well, definitely talk about that
But the
sometime.
P Diddy stuff.
Yeah,
That bro walking free.
yeah, I know.
I can't. Well, and then also, okay, since we're just talking about like crazy stuff, that they dropped the first degree murder charge on Luigi Mangione.
No,
No, but
they dropped the. They dropped two charges. They were state charges that they dropped. One had to do with like a criminal trespassing charge and something. I don't remember what the other one was, but he still faces federal charges.
Well,
So there were only two charges that were dropped.
the headline that I saw was that they dropped the first degree murder charge and he was still facing second degree murder.
And that might be on a state level, but I would imagine he's going to be. And where'd this happen, in New York?
Yeah.
But he's still facing federal charges. So, could he be charged for capital murder on a federal level, or is that only a state level crime?
I don't know.
I don't know what you have to do to get charged with a federal crime versus because a felony is not necessarily a federal charge.
Right. There were gun charges and some other things.
Well, yeah, because you can't have a gun in New York.
Yeah.
Right. But yes, there were a couple of charges that were dropped on state level.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think that this is cool just to give like a little teaser for future stuff because you mentioned we can talk about David D4
Yeah, we
vid.
D4 vid next
D4
time.
vid.
Yeah. We gotta keep tabs on.
We all got to do some research on that topic.
We gotta keep tabs on it.
For sure. I'm also not going to talk about it now because I think we've gone on quite a bit here. But there's some really intriguing updates on the 3i Atlas situation, which I think we should talk about next week.
Okay.
I don't know if you're going to be here, but we definitely got to talk about it either way because it's very interesting. And if I talk about it now, I'll go on for way too long.
Right.
So,
Okay. Well, yeah, maybe
Joe Rogan territory.
yes,
Maybe, maybe I need to come back next week because I want to
Hey.
be part of
definitely.
the conversation.
It's good having you here.
Yeah, I've had
Yeah.
a great time.
You can come
Yeah,
anytime you want.
I want to be more than just the in-house political guy.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure.
No.
I like other stuff too.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well then come back next week because we're gonna. I think we're gonna divert from the politics stuff for a little
Yeah.
bit. Because I got some stuff that we were gonna talk about
Yeah.
last week that we put on hold and we put it
Since
on
the Charlie Kirk thing, everything kind of got spun out of control. So
Yeah.
we're gonna get back on the rails next week.
Yeah, I want to hear some updates on the 3i Atlas.
It's
thing.
blowing my mind. So
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
cool.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for being on here today, Brant.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having
Yeah.
me. It's a great time, and I will definitely be back.
Awesome.
Probably next week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe next week. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week. Please do not forget to subscribe, like, share, comment, do all the things for us. We're posting on YouTube every week, so stay tuned, and we'll catch you next time.